Before he was a global icon, Johnny Depp was just a quiet, misunderstood boy growing up in Owensboro, Kentucky. Born on June 9, 1963, he was the youngest of four children, raised in a home filled with constant movement and tension. His family moved over 20 times before finally settling in Florida. His father eventually left, and young Johnny was left alone with a mother whose temper was as fierce as her resilience. School was a prison to him. He felt out of place, too strange, too creative, too loud in a world that wanted silence. He found escape in music, picking up a guitar at the age of 12 and joining garage bands. That instrument became his refuge, his way of surviving the chaos. But life had other plans. At 15, Johnny dropped out of high school to follow music full-time. That decision, reckless to some, would mark the beginning of an unpredictable path, one that would lead him to fame, destruction, and redemption. He didn't want to be a movie star. He didn't even like the idea. But fate, as it often does, didn't care what Johnny wanted. In 1983, Johnny Depp was living on dreams and ramen noodles in Los Angeles. He had married Lori Ann Allison, a makeup artist who believed in his talent. While chasing music with his band, The Kids, Johnny never considered acting, not seriously, but fate often hides in strange places. Through Lori, Johnny met Nicolas Cage, who saw something magnetic in him. Cage encouraged him to try acting, and soon Johnny landed an audition for a horror film. He didn't expect much. He wasn't trained. He wasn't even that interested. But the role? A teenager who gets swallowed by a bed in Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. It was bizarre. It was brief, but it worked. Johnny's odd charisma, the haunted eyes, the quiet intensity, caught attention. He didn't want to be a star. He wanted to make music, to stay true to the misfit he was. But Hollywood had opened its door, and it wasn't going to let him walk away so easily. That one bloody scene marked the start of a new chapter. Johnny Depp, the reluctant actor, had arrived, and the world hadn't seen anything yet. By 1987, Johnny Depp became a household name. Cast as Officer Tom Hansen in the TV series 21 Jump Street, he played a young cop going undercover in high schools, the perfect heartthrob for teen audiences. The show was a hit, and overnight, Depp was launched into stardom. But he hated it. The fame felt fake. The script bored him. He didn't want to be a teen idol. He wanted to be an artist. Paparazzi followed him. Magazines printed his face everywhere. While fans screamed for Tom Hansen, Johnny was quietly dying inside. Still, the show gave him something powerful: freedom. It paid the bills, opened doors, and gave him the chance to walk away on his own terms. After 4 seasons, he left 21 Jump Street, determined never to be boxed in again. He would only choose roles that challenged him, roles that spoke to the outsider within. He wasn't interested in safe. He was chasing something deeper, characters that were broken, strange, misunderstood. That rebellion would soon lead him into the arms of a visionary director named Tim Burton, and together they'd create magic. In 1990, Johnny Depp took a risk that changed everything. He teamed up with a young, eccentric director named Tim Burton, and together they made a modern fairy tale, Edward Scissorhands. Johnny played Edward, a gentle, lonely creature with blades for fingers, hidden away in a castle. It was a strange role, quiet and tragic, exactly the kind of character Depp was drawn to. No teen idol smile, no polished lines, just raw emotion and silent pain. Critics were stunned. Audiences saw a new side of Johnny, the artist again and again. Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and Sweeney Todd. Each time, Johnny transformed. He became someone else entirely. Strange voices, wild makeup, haunted souls. No one could predict what he'd do next. That was the point. With Edward Scissorhands, Johnny Depp didn't just escape the teen idol curse. He carved his name into cinema, one star at a time. Throughout the 1990s, Johnny Depp refused to play it safe. He didn't chase blockbusters. He chose stories that were strange, offbeat, and often risky. The kind of roles most stars avoided. He played an oddball director in Ed Wood, a drug-addicted journalist in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and a haunted writer in The Ninth Gate. Each performance was intense, layered, and completely transformative. Hollywood couldn't pin him down. He wasn't the type to chase Oscars or pose for the camera. Depp was an actor who disappeared into his characters, no matter how bizarre or damaged they were. Critics admired his boldness. Studios didn't always understand him, but directors respected him because he gave everything. Behind the scenes, though, Johnny was battling his own demons. He struggled with fame, with identity, and with addiction. He was honest about his pain, his past, and his flaws. That vulnerability gave his roles weight, a sadness behind the eyes that audiences could feel. Johnny Depp wasn't Hollywood's golden boy. He was its ghost, unpredictable, brilliant, and often misunderstood. But in 2003, one unexpected role would change his life forever and turn him into a global legend. In 2003, Johnny Depp shocked the world again. He took on a role no one expected in a Disney movie no one believed in. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. He played Captain Jack Sparrow, a drunken, swaggering, eyeliner-wearing pirate unlike anything seen before. Disney executives were nervous. Some wanted him fired. Is he drunk? They asked. Is this a joke? But Johnny was dead serious. He based Jack Sparrow on Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones. Part rock star, part trickster, part fool. It was a performance so strange, so original, it became iconic overnight. Kids adored him. Adults were fascinated. Critics, once skeptical, called it genius. The movie was a massive hit. Suddenly, Johnny Depp was no longer the misunderstood indie actor. He was a global superstar. Merchandising, sequels, red carpets. The world couldn't get enough of Captain Jack. But success came with a price. Depp had spent years avoiding the spotlight, carefully choosing odd roles. Now he was everywhere. And with that came pressure, attention, and the weight of a billion-dollar franchise. Captain Jack had made him a legend, but the man behind the mask was starting to crack. By the late 2000s, Johnny Depp was on top of the world, with Pirates of the Caribbean spawning sequels and billions in box office revenue. He had become one of the highest paid and most recognizable actors on the planet. But behind the fame, something darker was brewing. The success brought more pressure, more media, more chaos. Depp, always a private soul, was now under constant scrutiny. He continued to work. Sweeney Todd, Public Enemies, Alice in Wonderland, always disappearing into his characters, always chasing meaning in madness. But the cracks were starting to show. His long-term relationship with Vanessa Paradis, the mother of his 2 children, began to falter. After 14 years together, they separated quietly in 2012. Depp called it painful, devastating. His children were his anchor, but the storm was growing stronger. In the shadows, alcohol and substance abuse were creeping back in. He looked tired, lost. The man who once controlled the chaos now seemed to be consumed by it. Still, the world watched, loved him, forgave him. But the next chapter of his life would not be about movies or music. It would be about survival, and it public opinion split in two. Johnny denied the allegations. He claimed he was the victim, not the abuser. Photos, videos, and recordings leaked. It wasn't just a personal matter anymore. It was a public war. Depp filed lawsuits, first against British tabloid The Sun for calling him a wife beater. He lost. Then he sued Amber Heard directly for defamation in the U.S., a televised trial watched by millions. Day after day, the world listened to graphic testimony, audio tapes, and accusations from both sides. Fans took sides. Memes went viral. Careers hung in the balance. In 2022, the jury ruled mostly in Depp's favor. He was awarded millions in damages. To many, it was a victory, a symbol of resilience. To others, it was complicated. But for Johnny, it wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming his name and what was left of his soul. After the storm, there was silence. When the trial ended in 2022, Johnny Depp stepped away from the spotlight. No more red carpets, no more interviews, just time to heal, reflect, and rebuild. He returned to what he loved most, art and music. Depp toured with guitarist Jeff Beck, playing live shows across Europe. The crowd didn't see a broken man. They saw a survivor, a legend who had lost everything and still stood tall. In 2023, he made a quiet comeback to film with Jack Sparrow, playing King Louis XV. It wasn't a Hollywood blockbuster. It was personal, artistic, his way of saying, "I'm still here." For decades, Johnny Depp was the outsider who rose, fell, and rose again. He never fit the mold and never wanted to. His career was built on risks, his legacy carved in scars. He remains a symbol of rebellion, of artistic courage, and of the fragile line between fame and destruction. Johnny once said, "People cry not because they're weak, but because they've been strong for too long." And now, stronger than ever, Johnny Depp walks forward, not as a star, but as a man who lived it all and survived. Today, Johnny Depp lives far from the chaos of Hollywood. He spends most of his time in France, surrounded by quiet, by creativity,